everyone. Welcome back to Scavenge-ology, the podcast where we're uncovering the truth behind what you're eating. This is your host, Elena. So happy that you've joined us for yet another episode. Before we get started today, I wanted to take a quick moment to thank you for listening in, and then also to ask you to leave a rating and review on whatever streaming service you are listening on, whether that's Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. You could just leave us a quick rating, which is the star rating, and then a review, which is sometimes separate, where you actually get to type out your thoughts about the episodes or the podcast in general. So thank you so much for taking a few minutes to do that. You can also connect with us over on Instagram or Facebook at Primal Rock, Primal Rock. And that is our Instagram name, or you can learn more about our products and what we do as a brand. So we would love to have you connect with us there. I'm really excited to hop into today's episode. Today's episode, I hope, is very informative for you in your journey to being healthier or eating cleaner, whatever term you like to use to describe your diet. I really hope that today's episode is helpful for you and to provide you with really just beneficial information for yourself and your family that can help you make more educated decisions when it comes to your food. So today's episode will be a little bit different than anything we've done before. We talk about, broad topics here that are niche specific to food. But today I want to focus in on one specific ingredient that you may see on a food label. And we're just going to discuss that. We're going to do a deep discussion about what this ingredient is, what it does, and then a few reasons we should try to steer clear of it, and why our brand here at Primal Rock has a certain set of standards that we abide by for all of our products that include this ingredient on the banned ingredient list. So let's dive in today, and I'm really, really excited that you're listening. So the chemical compound that we're talking about today, you have to bear with me if I pronounce this incorrectly. I scoured the internet for a pronunciation of this word, looked at YouTube videos, and they all call it by its nickname. No one uses its actual name in the video, so I just have to try to pronounce it the best that I can. The ingredient we're looking at is TBHQ, which is tertiary butyl hydroquinone, which is a very, very long word. TBHQ is something you may see on ingredient labels for chips or for different snacks, sometimes for candy, Reese's cups. If you go grab Reese's eggs or Reese's trees, I know specifically with those, TBHQ is included. I know it's bursting a lot of bubbles, including mine, doing this research, but TBHQ is a common antioxidant that basically prevents fat oxidation. And what oxidation does is causes foods to lose flavor or change color, depletes nutritional value over time. So since oxidation can lead to fats turning rancid, turning bad, TBHQ can help increase shelf life and reduce the amount of food waste from the food spoiling over time. So if you think to those experiments you see where people take McDonald's meals and leave them sitting out on a shelf for long periods of time and they never change, that's, a type of preservative, a type of ingredient that prevents food from losing shelf life, from going bad. So TBHQ has a very long history. It's actually banned in several countries, and there's so much that goes into this ingredient. So I have been so interested in learning more about this ingredient in my food, and just a long list of food additives as well. So like I said, it's used to extend shelf life and prevent food from going rancid. And it does have a slight odor to it, but you don't smell it in the food itself. You can't identify it. But if you were to have the compound by itself, you would be able to tell that it does have a slight odor to the compound. TBHQ is used in fats, including vegetable oils and animal fats. And since processed foods contain fats, it's found in a wide range of products, like I shared before. But food is not the only place that you can find TBHQ as an ingredient. You can also find it in paints and skincare products and just other sorts of products that you don't consume as food. So the FDA determines what's safe and what's not safe for US consumers. And the FDA puts a limit on how much of a specific additive we can use when there's evidence that large quantities may be harmful, or if there's a lack of safety overall. I really like the quote that says, no evidence of harm is not evidence that it's safe. I think that that's a really important quote. So I like to think, the FDA pays attention to this, but they do put a limit on it that TBHQ cannot account for more than 0.02% of the oils in a specific food product, because the FDA does not have evidence that anything above 0.02% is safe for human consumption. So like I shared before, TBHQ is banned in a few countries, one of those countries being Japan, which is very interesting. Obviously, when an ingredient is banned in certain countries, when there is a limit by the FDA on a certain ingredient, we know that there's going to be some dangers associated with this ingredient, some fears around this ingredient, and some proof that, this ingredient can harm. So let's discuss a few of the potential dangers with this food additive. So according to the Centers for Science in the Public Interest, which is called CSPI, a well-designed government study found that this increased the incidence of tumors in rats. So they did a study on rats that consumed TBHQ, and it was proven through this study that there was an incidence of more tumors in these rats that consumed it versus the rats that didn't. And then according to the National Library of Medicine at the NLM, cases of vision disturbances have been reported when humans consume TBHQ, and they also have studies done that TBHQ can cause liver enlargement, neurotoxic effects, convulsions, and even paralysis in laboratory animals when consumed in large amounts. So some believe that the TBHQ can also affect human behavior, and this is why the ingredient is on the do not consume list in the Feingold diet, which is an approach to managing ADHD. So if you have a child or family member with ADHD, you may be familiar with this type of diet. And they say that if you struggle, or anyone who struggles with ADHD, they should not consume foods with TBHQ. So when I hear all of this research, just this is my opinion, this is not fact-based. I'm taking a break from the facts for a minute. But when I hear all of this research done that's sharing all of these potential dangers, it's proven in laboratory animals linked to all of these horrible things like tumors and liver enlargement and even paralysis. Why are we able to even use 0.02% of this in our food, right? I mean, obviously in paint, we're not consuming paint. It is included in a lot of different paints, but we're not consuming that, although we are maybe painting with it. We actually just painted our house yesterday. So maybe, you breathe it in. I would have to do separate research on, whether inhaling it is the same as ingesting it. But, ingesting something that causes all of these issues is scary. I don't understand why we're even allowed to consume it if there's countries that are completely banning this from all products. And what's really interesting is we're going to get into a few products that contain TBHQ. One of the products, like I mentioned before, is Reese's Cups. And so the conventional Reese's versus the organic Reese's, if you look at the food labels for those, I will include those on the blog over on Scavenge-ology Writings on the Wall, which you can find at primalrockgroceryhouse.com. We will also link that in the description. But if you look at the ingredient statements, the ingredients are completely different. So it is possible to make these products without these harmful additives. However, in America, the food industry is so used to just picking the easiest way, to increase the bottom line, and really putting a lot of people at risk. People, with ADHD who may not have this research or may not have access to the specific diet, aren't aware they have ADHD even, and they're still consuming these ingredients, when we as a whole, as a community, as country, could band together to work towards having healthier food products and work towards having, these harmful ingredients removed from our products and the things that we consume. However, we don't do that here. It's, whatever is cheapest, whatever is best, that's what we consume. And it's just disappointing overall. There are other studies done that TBHQ, the synthetic preservative, can harm your immune system and promote allergies such as eczema. As noted, the FDA does consider TBHQ to be safe in their small amount, 0.02%. However, research indicates Americans are still getting more than they should. So back in 1999, the World Health Organization found that the average of TBHQ in the US was around 0.62 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. So that's about 90% of the acceptable daily intake. And consumption was 1.2 milligrams per kilogram of body weight in those who eat high fat diets. So that results in 180% of the acceptable daily intake. So yes, the FDA is saying only 0.02% can be used in products. Okay, fine. However, what if someone is eating, multiple varieties of this product? What if someone's eating multiple Reese's cups or multiple servings of different products that contain TBHQ? That person could be getting, and research is showing, 180% of the acceptable daily intake of such a harmful ingredient that can lead to so many scary things in rats. If it can lead to tumors and liver enlargement and toxicity in animals and lab animals, imagine what it can do to our bodies as humans, especially when we are consuming it in such large quantities. Of course, the study and the authors of the study did add that a lot of factors go into this overestimation. So it's difficult to really gauge how much people were taking in, but the math doesn't lie. If people are consuming, and just thinking about that, if people are consuming TBHQ in so many products throughout the day, obviously they're going to be consuming more than the allotted amount by the FDA. So TBHQ is clearly something that we want to stay away from, whether you have ADHD, someone in your family does, or you just don't want to eat a lot of preservatives that are tied to these health risks, which I think is pretty basic. I'm not saying I'm never going to enjoy a Reese's cup ever again in my life, but that is something to keep in mind when you are consuming large quantities of processed foods. And really common name brands that you see in the store, especially, it's a new month, we're having Easter, we're going into the summer, a lot of these products that we see at barbecues or holidays, whether it's candy, chips, whatever, containing these harmful additives. So there are some ways that we can avoid them. And a lot of that starts with reading the label. We've talked about reading the label before on this podcast. You can go back and listen to a few of our other episodes on that. But when you're reading the labels, obviously you can look for TBHQ, which is clearly stated on the ingredient labels. But you can also look for a few of the other ways they may list this. So in its full form of tert-butyl hydroquinone, or they may say tertiary butyl hydroquinone, probably pronouncing these wrong, but you get the gist of it, and it will be on the blog. And then TBHQ, like I said, and then butylated hydroxyanisole. Those are 4 ways you can look for TBHQ on a label and try to stay away from products that are containing this. A very simple way to avoid consuming too much TBHQ or any TBHQ at all is to avoid products that come from a shelf. Especially, like I said, these common name brand products, because TBHQ is meant to withstand and make a longer shelf life for products. So if you're opting for more fresh fruits and vegetables and meats and healthier options, you are way less likely to be containing TBHQ. Also shopping at, wholesome grocery stores and places that you can trust to provide you with top of the line products. Over at primalrockgroceryhouse.com, you can go under the tab of Why Clean and go down to our standards, and you can see the entire food standards list of all of the banned ingredients that we have banned from our products. And guess what? You will find right on that list, TBHQ. And I think this podcast has given great insight into why this ingredient should not be consumed and should be really looked for and looked out for on ingredient lists, because this is not something that you want to be eating in excess, or maybe even at all, depending on your lifestyle, depending on your medical history, your family's medical history, and just the standards you hold for your own food. So I hope this was helpful. I look forward to diving into a few more ingredients that are really frequently found on common products, but are also found on the Primal Rock banned ingredient list. So thank you for listening in. Please feel free to leave us any feedback or send us a message over on the Primal Rock Instagram so that we can talk more with you about this ingredient and hear your feedback, how you are adapting to finding this new information, because when you know better, you can make decisions better. And we look forward to having you back next time. Thank you.